The streets of Calcutta in the 1950s were suffocating. Thick dust, the stench of garbage, the cries of the sick and dying filling every corner. Children with hollow eyes played amidst piles of filth, mothers weeping beside their emaciated babies, and the elderly huddled on broken mats. Most people walked past, heads down, pretending not to notice. Into this world stepped a young Albanian nun, Saint Teresa of Calcutta, clad in her simple white sari with blue stripes. She seemed fragile, almost invisible against the overwhelming despair, but her eyes held a light that pierced the gloom. She knelt beside a sick child, whispered words of comfort to a grieving mother, and offered her meager food to those with nothing. Each gesture, small to the world, was an act of defiance against indifference. Even on that first day, her presence sparked a change. A boy opened his eyes when she touched his hand. A mother paused her tears to look at her. Hope, once lost, began to flicker. This was the beginning, an ordinary woman stepping into the impossible, armed only with courage and compassion. Saint Teresa didn't wait for recognition or permission. She cleaned the wounds of the sick, washed the feet of the forgotten, and spoke soft, comforting words to those society had abandoned. Every small action was revolutionary in a city where suffering had become normal. She carried only a small bag of medicine, a few scraps of food, and an unshakable belief in the dignity of every human being. She leaned over a child lying in the dirt, wrapped him in her shawl, and whispered, "You are not alone." Around her, the slum remained harsh and cruel, but in that moment, a flicker of warmth broke through. People noticed. Some stared in disbelief. Others laughed, calling her efforts pointless. But she did not argue or despair. Instead, she continued, tirelessly, moving from one alley to the next. Each tiny gesture, a smile, a hand held, a bowl of rice, was like planting seeds of hope in barren soil. And slowly, life began to return to the streets, one act of compassion at a time. The world doubted her, neighbors scoffed, officials ignored her, and even friends questioned why a small nun would risk her life in such dire conditions. "Why bother?" they said. "The city is hopeless." Yet Saint Teresa never wavered. Her courage was quiet but relentless. She walked through the narrow, filthy streets, her presence a defiance of despair. A woman collapsed with fever, and she was there, offering water, medicine, and a comforting hand. A child cried for her mother who had died, and she whispered songs of hope until the tears slowed. Every doubtful glance, every whisper of mockery, only fueled her determination. She understood that change was not instant, it was gradual, built from countless small acts, each creating ripples that would eventually reshape the world around her. Her bravery was not loud, it was persistent, tender, and utterly transformative. One sick child recovered under her care. A mother found courage to keep going. One smile returned to a face long forgotten. Slowly, the impossible began to change. These small miracles, unseen by many, built momentum. Neighbors began to notice. Some helped by bringing food, others watched, quietly inspired. The slum, once a place of despair, began to breathe a little easier. Every act of love she offered multiplied. Hope spread like a quiet fire, igniting hearts in ways that would shape generations. Saint Teresa's genius was simple, yet profound. She understood that no act of love, no matter how small, was ever wasted. Every touch, every word, every compassionate glance was a spark in the darkness. And in the streets of Calcutta, That darkness was vast, but not invincible. By the end of her first months in Calcutta, stories of her deeds had begun to spread. Whispers of the nun with a heart larger than life became conversations, then stories, and soon inspired others to act. People who had ignored suffering began to notice. Children who had once despaired began to smile. Her reputation was no longer just local, it was the beginning of a global movement. She had shown the world that courage and compassion could triumph over despair, that a single person, armed only with love, could ignite hope in places where it had been extinguished. This first chapter of Saint Teresa's life is a lesson. Greatness does not always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it walks quietly through the slums, touching the lives of the forgotten and creating ripples that change the world forever.
As Saint Teresa continued her mission, small miracles began to unfold before her eyes. Children she cared for regained strength, their hollow cheeks slowly filling out. Adults who had lost all hope began to speak of survival and dignity. It wasn't magic, it was tireless attention, compassion, and meticulous care. Every hand she held, every wound she cleaned, became a tiny miracle in a city drowning in despair. One afternoon, she found a boy near death, abandoned in an alley. The doctors had given up hope. The family was too poor to care. She refused to leave him. Hour after hour, she cleaned his wounds, whispered prayers, and fed him what little she had. Days later, the boy sat up, weak but alive, looking at her with wide, grateful eyes. In that moment, the impossible had been touched by her determination. The streets began to notice. What had seemed like random acts of kindness started to feel like a movement. People began murmuring, perhaps this tiny woman really could make a difference. But as word spread, resistance also grew. Not everyone welcomed her intervention. While some were inspired, others doubted or mocked her. Local officials saw her as a nuisance. Skeptics called her work pointless, and even some neighbors whispered that she was overstepping boundaries. Every step she took seemed to invite criticism. Yet Saint Teresa faced skepticism with quiet defiance. She did not argue or justify herself. Instead, she acted even more fiercely, moving from one street to the next, carrying hope in her hands like a weapon against despair. Each small success became a rebuttal to the doubters, a child smiling, a mother encouraged, a family strengthened. Her courage drew more attention. Volunteers began to appear, inspired by her relentless devotion. Slowly, the isolated acts became a network of compassion. The city was changing, one small act at a time, but she still faced exhaustion, danger, and the enormity of suffering around her. Realizing that one woman alone could only do so much, Saint Teresa began forming a group of like-minded nuns. They called themselves the Missionaries of Charity. With each new member, her reach expanded. Together, they opened shelters, feeding centers, and clinics for the poorest of the poor. The early days were chaotic. Supplies were scarce, streets were dangerous, and the sheer scale of human suffering threatened to overwhelm even the strongest hearts. But Saint Teresa led by example, often working alongside her sisters for hours without rest. Every action was infused with humility, patience, and extraordinary love. She taught her companions the principle that would guide their work for decades. Not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love. This simple philosophy transformed ordinary acts into extraordinary miracles, creating ripples that touched thousands. The work took a toll. Long nights, scarce food, and exposure to disease were constant threats. Yet Saint Teresa never wavered. She slept little, ate less, and often ignored her own health to serve the suffering. Every scar, every bruise, every moment of exhaustion became a badge of courage in her quiet battle against despair. There were nights she sat alone, exhausted, questioning if it was enough. The slum seemed endless, suffering unending. But in the quiet, she felt the presence of something larger than herself, a guiding force pushing her to continue. Her faith and determination became her fuel, transforming fatigue into action, doubt into resolve. Despite the challenges, the world began to notice. Local newspapers reported on the miracle nun who cared for the abandoned and dying. Volunteers joined her mission, donations arrived from unexpected places, and slowly the missionaries of charity grew stronger. Saint Teresa remained humble, attributing every success to love, not to herself. Yet her influence was undeniable. She had transformed the lives of countless individuals, and in doing so had begun to reshape the moral conscience of a city and eventually the world. This segment of her journey is a testament to courage, perseverance, and the extraordinary impact of compassion. From the narrow alleys of Calcutta, the tiniest acts of love began to echo globally, inspiring millions to act with empathy and courage.
By the late 1960s, Saint Teresa's work in Calcutta began drawing global attention. Newspapers, magazines, and television programs highlighted the nun who had dedicated her life to the poorest of the poor. People from around the world sent letters, donations, and offers to volunteer. Yet fame brought its own challenges. Some questioned her methods. Critics argued that her focus on the dying rather than systemic change was inefficient. Religious skeptics debated the authenticity of her miracles. Even well-intentioned supporters sometimes doubted whether one woman and a small group of nuns could truly make a lasting impact. But Saint Teresa's response was consistent. She never defended herself. She simply returned to the streets, kneeling beside the sick, holding the abandoned, and offering the smallest gestures of love. The world could debate. She continued to act. Every life she touched silenced more criticism than any argument ever could. The paradox was striking. The more attention she received, the more she insisted on humility. Fame did not change her mission. It amplified the need for relentless compassion in a world that often forgot the most vulnerable. Not everyone was inspired. Critics questioned her approach, claiming that providing temporary relief without structural change was futile. Some accused her of promoting suffering rather than alleviating it, and debates in newspapers became heated. Despite this, Saint Teresa continued her work with unwavering focus. She understood that the purity of her mission did not require validation from the skeptical. Her goal was not to appease critics, but to serve the poorest. Every small act, feeding a starving child, holding a dying man's hand, offering a smile to the ignored, was proof that love transcends debate. Even amidst skepticism, she found allies. Volunteers, inspired by her courage, joined her mission, swelling the ranks of the missionaries of charity. Each supporter amplified her work, extending hope further than she could have imagined alone. Criticism came, but it never derailed her dedication. As her impact grew, Saint Teresa began receiving international recognition. In 1979, she was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, celebrated worldwide for her tireless dedication to humanity. Yet even this global acclaim did not change her. She delivered the speech not to glorify herself, but to highlight the plight of the poor. She spoke of the unseen, the forgotten, the dying left in alleys and slums. Her words were a call to action, reminding the world that every human life holds value.
She refused to accept personal comfort from the award, continuing to live simply and serve relentlessly. The world marveled at her humility, a woman honored globally, yet still kneeling beside the sick in narrow, dusty streets. Her life became a symbol of how courage, faith, and love can challenge societal norms and inspire humanity on a massive scale. Global recognition brought new pressures. Donors, governments, and media outlets sought her attention, yet her priority remained unchanged: the poorest of the poor. Each day presented a difficult balance, accepting support while ensuring it served those in need, maintaining humility while inspiring millions. Her response was simple yet profound: action over words. She walked through the slums, visited dying patients, and trained her sisters to focus on service rather than accolades. Every meal served, every hand held, every life touched reinforced the message that love is not measured by recognition, but by impact. Through this balance, Saint Teresa became a living paradox, globally celebrated yet profoundly ordinary in her daily acts. Her legacy was being written not in headlines alone, but in the quiet gratitude of those she helped. As her influence grew, so did the challenges. Political unrest, bureaucracy, and occasional hostility threatened her mission. Yet she faced each obstacle with steadfast determination, never letting external pressures deter her from serving those in desperate need. She taught her sisters to see the divine in every human being, regardless of status, religion, or circumstance. Together, they confronted poverty and illness head-on, turning fear and despair into hope and action. Her courage inspired countless others to join her mission, proving that steadfast compassion can overcome even systemic challenges. Her life became a testament to resilience. The world could challenge her, doubt her, or celebrate her, but she remained unwavering, dedicated entirely to the powerless and forgotten. In facing global attention and criticism, Saint Teresa showed that true greatness is not measured by applause, but by unwavering service and love.
By the 1980s, Saint Teresa's missionaries of charity had grown internationally. Shelters, clinics, and feeding centers appeared not only in Calcutta, but around the world. From slums in India to refugee camps abroad, her sisters carried her vision: love in action. Despite global expansion, she never abandoned the streets where she began. She personally visited new centers, ensuring that every act of service honored human dignity. People marveled at her ability to maintain humility amid fame and responsibility. Her leadership was quiet but unstoppable. She empowered countless others to serve, demonstrating that one person's compassion could ignite a worldwide movement. The ripple of her love now stretched across continents, transforming lives far beyond what she could have imagined. Volunteers from across the globe came to Calcutta, drawn by stories of her compassion. They carried her mission back to their own countries, spreading hope and service. Saint Teresa welcomed them with simplicity, teaching that true charity is not measured by size, but by sincerity. Even small acts, feeding a hungry child, caring for the sick, could create lasting change. Through her example, millions discovered that helping others was not a duty, but a profound privilege. The movement was no longer confined to one city. It had become a global testament to the power of love. Even as the mission expanded, challenges persisted. Political tensions, poverty, and illness threatened the work. Yet Saint Teresa faced every obstacle with unwavering resolve. She reminded her sisters that obstacles were part of the journey. Compassion could overcome bureaucracy, fear, and skepticism. Every center, every volunteer,
Every act of love became a statement: service matters more than recognition. Her courage inspired not only volunteers, but entire communities, proving that steadfast dedication can transform even the harshest circumstances. By the late 20th century, Saint Teresa had become a global icon. She received awards, honors, and invitations from world leaders, yet her focus never wavered. She continued to care for the abandoned, living simply among the people she served. Fame did not change her mission. It amplified her platform to inspire more love, more action, more hope. Her humility, coupled with relentless service, made her a living example that true greatness lies in serving others quietly and consistently. Saint Teresa's work continues today. The missionaries of charity operate in over 130 countries, feeding millions, caring for the sick, and comforting the abandoned. Her philosophy, small acts with great love, remains a guiding principle for volunteers worldwide. She proved that compassion is contagious and that one person's unwavering dedication can inspire a movement that lasts decades. Through her life, she taught the world that the heart of humanity is measured not by wealth or fame, but by love, courage, and relentless service. The legacy of Saint Teresa of Calcutta is alive, breathing in the smiles of those she touched and in the countless hands that continue her mission.
Saint Teresa's life was a constant journey of service. Every day, she chose to walk among the poorest, the sick, and the forgotten. Her simplicity, humility, and unwavering compassion became a beacon of hope for the world. Even amid global fame, she remained focused on the individuals in front of her. A child starving, an elderly person abandoned, a sick patient alone. She taught that greatness is not measured by accolades, but by the love and attention we give to others. Her personal sacrifices were immense. Sleep was rare, comfort minimal, and dangers many. Yet her spirit never faltered. She believed deeply that each small act of kindness could create ripples of change far beyond what anyone could imagine. The impact of Saint Teresa extends far beyond her lifetime. Millions around the world, inspired by her example, have chosen to dedicate their lives to service. Volunteers, doctors, teachers, and everyday people follow her simple principle: small acts, great love. Her story reminds us that courage is not always loud or grand. Sometimes it is quiet, persistent, and unwavering. Even in the darkest places, one person's compassion can ignite hope, transforming entire communities. Saint Teresa's life is a template for humanity, an enduring reminder that service is powerful, love is contagious, and faith in goodness can overcome despair. One of her greatest lessons was that no act of love is ever wasted. Every smile, every touch, every shared meal mattered. In a world that often overlooks suffering, she emphasized that small actions, done with genuine compassion, can ripple into unimaginable change. Her approach was simple yet profound. Focus on one person at a time, care for them fully, and inspire others to do the same. The cumulative effect of these small acts transformed Calcutta and eventually touched every corner of the globe. Through her work, Saint Teresa demonstrated that true service requires courage, patience, and humility. The world's problems may seem insurmountable, but persistent love can chip away at despair, one life at a time. Today, the missionaries of charity operate in over 130 countries. Hospitals, orphanages, shelters, and feeding centers continue her work, serving millions. The principles she instilled, humility, love, and relentless service, remain the guiding force of the organization. Saint Teresa's legacy proves that one individual with courage and compassion can spark a global movement. Her life transcends borders, religions, and cultures, inspiring humanity to act with kindness and courage every day. Even decades after her passing, her philosophy lives on in the countless lives touched and the hands that continue her mission worldwide. Saint Teresa of Calcutta's story is more than history. It is a living call to action. Her life reminds us that even the smallest gestures, offered with love and humility, can change the world. She faced doubt, hardship, and criticism, yet never wavered. Her courage, faith, and relentless service turned despair into hope and inspired millions. Her example challenges us to see the humanity in everyone, to act where others hesitate, and to love without expectation. The eternal legacy of Saint Teresa is found not in awards or headlines, but in the hearts of those she touched and in the countless lives she continues to inspire worldwide.